Morning, everybody. Thank you, IQPC, of having me here this morning. Thank you, Mark, for the introduction. In the previous presentation, global process owner, I did it for a while, so I'm happy definitely to have a conversation with anybody who wants. But as Mark pointed, having that broad range of experiences in different facets of the business definitely helps. Besides the fact, of course, as a Belgian, and I speak 5 languages, and I traveled the world, and I lived different places for many years, which also gets you a good broad cultural awareness, which definitely helps. The topic of this presentation is shared service transformation, taking your strategy broader and talking about the full process. I don't have the magic dust. You're not going to find the answer to your questions in this presentation. The way that I approached it and the purpose is to take a little bit holistic, to lift it a little bit level in terms of how you can define your strategy, your value proposition, how you can assess your stage on the maturity curve in terms of shared services or service provision, and that might lead to a guidance in terms of where you want to transform or where you want to invest in. Also talking about the full process, there was reference to the process, some easy digestible slides in terms of where does the process end and where does it start. Quickly, transformation, strategy, process, we are all aware of shared services and it's mainly people delivering it. Transformation is a radical change. Like we've seen with Metro, moving from shared service to global service with a tremendous expansion in terms of your scope. Transformation is always a radical change. Your strategy, as I said, we'll talk a little bit about your value proposition, how you can establish that. What are the tendencies over time, scale, your maturity model, where you are located, to give you a guidance in terms of your investment, and then the full process. Where does it begin? Where does it end? It's always initiated with some kind of a demand, going to data being inputted, then operating your process, delivering an output, and ultimately supplying, delivering your process, hopefully to satisfaction of your users and the business. Value proposition over time. This is a busy slide. Lucky for the ones in front, they can see the small letters. I hope everybody sees it at the end. There are still places in front here. You have good eyes. When we look at value proposition from a shared service perspective, a little bit, that over time, you see the timetable on the upper hand. And you see over here cost, quality, time, which are the different elements, in fact, that drive your value proposition. This is not absolute truth, yeah? So everybody has their perception and their takeaway from it. What is core, of course, that when you think about your value proposition, you always make sure that it's matching your corporate strategy. You don't want to move out of line in terms of your corporate vision and strategy. And also that you have a good reflection that your customers and your users are 2 different types of stakeholders. So the elements of your value proposition: cost, history, we start with centralizing, some call it the first generation, consolidation, outsourcing, sourcing, resource management. Ultimately, I think now we're entering into what is maybe called the 4th generation, which is in fact a combination of multiple locations, multiple teams providing ultimately a full service delivery to the business. It's less relevant, your process efficiency and where you are located. It's more relevant, what are you providing and how can you optimizing using all the different elements. Quality, the history goes there, standardization and awareness. We focused on back office, high emphasis on the customer, move to paperless. Everybody has probably a continuous improvement initiative or methodology that they have owned or taken now. And the move now into excellence and assurance. Excellence in terms of your center of excellence, you're moving more into specific niches of processes which require a specific excellence, call it in the tax area or in the treasury area. And then also from a quality perspective, a focus on the data. It was mentioned before, and I think it will be mentioned throughout these, throughout the event, you know, the importance of data, what you can do with data analysis or analytics as well. This is the future to support the business. When you look at the time perspective, and again it's holistic, you have communication technology, you were looking at scheduling certain tasks. Start of 2000, you know, there was this big discussion about the time to closure, how you can bring it from 3.5 days to 1.5 days in terms of closing your books. Then we went also virtual. A number of years we're talking about end-to-end. For me, it's more the future in anticipating. Don't wait till it comes and it happens, but with all what you have, try to anticipate as a shared service center in terms of what will happen. Accesses, we're global, 24/7, it's a commodity, we have self-services, we're using web portals, we're going pan-regionally. Recently, we applied the clouds in terms of where we store our data and how we cooperate. Access, I think in the future, or the focus area, will be on penetration. With penetration, I mean, and I think my predecessor, Mr. Sanchez, gave a great opportunity there. Being an FMCG company, whenever you go shopping and at the cashier, the barcode gets scanned, this initiates the full supply chain. And so this is what I'm looking at from a penetration perspective, that you're also looking in your finance processes, how you can use the methodology and the technology to penetrate deeper so that you have data coming in very quickly and that you're very well aware about what's going on. Assurance, we all have compliance conversations, control, yes or no, Sarbanes-Oxley that we have to comply to. We brought transparency in terms of the control environment and the assurance environment. Following that, there were good conversations about ownership, who owns certain controls and certain data. I'm looking in the future or currently where it's integrated. Control is not anymore a separate thing. Definitely within a shared service center, you need to live and breathe control. I always said to the people when I was running the shared service center, you can do great stuff. You can deliver tremendous quality, operate your processes. But one failure in the control environment and the majority of the credit of the business in the shared service center will be gone. And it's goddamn difficult to work that for. So from an assurance perspective, control needs to be integrated. You need to live and breathe it. As a future potential in terms of value proposition, there's a potential for rollout in terms of a methodology, in terms of an awareness, in terms of training. A lot should have been established in the control and assurance area over the past years in shared services. There's maybe good stuff that can be rolled out to the wider business. Advice started end of the 90s, demand management, knowledge management. First you had best practices, then they moved to leading practices. Collaboration there, you're not anymore a singled out operation. You definitely need to integrate much more with the business. And then ultimately the analytics. This is definitely an area where as well in the, as we saw as well in Metro presentation, in the analytics where there's a lot of advice that can be given. So as a summary, value proposition over time, looking into the future, What I see is that you optimize from a cost perspective. You're very operating multiple groups in multiple centers and being very flexible from that perspective to meet the cost, but also leverage the competencies and the strengths that you have there. Attendance definitely on data. Anticipating, don't sit and wait for something to happen and somebody from a service perspective to hit you. Try to anticipate there. Look for penetration so that you make sure you get the right data at the right time from the right source and that it's at your hand. Roll out what you have developed in terms of living and breathing the control environment and look at the analytics as we had some good examples. So the time is over, I think, when we look at the future of captive centers. You need to free yourself. You need to export, because in shared services there's a lot of competencies and capabilities and strength and knowledge built out. So you need to be thinking how I can export that, how I can do a more consulting element to the business. For example, Mark mentioned in my introduction, I'm currently doing business relationship management. I'm managing a team of business analysts who go in and gather all kinds of requirements and give the picture as is, to be, now, future. So in this area as well, from a consulting perspective, see what you can do more to consult the business. And equally in line of the recent NATO gathering in Wales and their announcement of deploying what they call, I think, a quick task force. The same from a shared service perspective. See how you can deploy the competencies, the capabilities that you have, the knowledge that you have established through a kind of a task force, you know, where you can deploy it and service the business on many fronts. Another slide with a bit of complexity, but okay, it's going to get lighter as we move over time. The maturity model. So as we in the previous slide, we gave thoughts about your value proposition and where you want to make a difference as a shared service center to the business. You need to define where you are on the maturity stage. When you look at the maturity model, on the right side you have a number of drivers. Most of us are very familiar with these drivers, and ultimately it ends up in the highest level where the effectiveness and the impact that you make is a key driver to be used by your shared service center. On the left side we have the different phases of maturity, starting with, you know, an ad hoc. Okay, we need to do something. Reactive, let's pull something together, to building a foundation, to having managed and integrated operations. Optimizing is the talk of the town over the last years in terms of maturity, and then ultimately towards the future it's more like this extension, referring to those value propositions. What is it that I can do more besides my core financial processes or my procurement scope and so on? Good. So we have drivers, we have phases. On the top you have the different areas related to the maturity stage. We're talking about your scope, your adaptation, your processes, technology, people, culture, the leadership, the methodologies that you're going to be using, the governance that you put in place, the operating model that you're choosing from, and the customer focus. So you got left, right, and on top a range of areas. If you want to define your maturity stage, you need to do all the boxes, in fact, which connects those three areas. You need to fill them in yourself with a kind of a short description. What does it mean for you, governance, under a managed maturity level? And which are the drivers are you currently using in that governance? And as you fill out yourself, and please do invite some of your stakeholders to get some constructive input there, as you fill it out yourself, what it means to be in a certain area at a certain stage, you can then also start filling in the boxes where you want to be, linking to your value proposition. How do you want to move up this maturity, and what does it need for those different areas? It's in fact somewhat describing the to-be state for yourself, and then you will be seeing whether it is a change, or it is an innovation, or it is a transformation. And where are the areas that you're going to be facing the most challenges? So, as you fill in these boxes, meeting somewhat the matrix, I'm referring here to the foundation of shared services and operating finance and other processes, which is a continuous improvement, transformation, innovation. It's an ever-ending, pressure that we need to do better and do more each time. You might apply the lean principles, and lean is also, as part of lean, you can define your X matrix. Your X matrix is in fact saying, what am I going to focus on the next 2-3 years? How does that translate in certain activities? How am I going to measure that? What are the differences that I'm going to make in terms of my indicators and so on? So this is as an opportunity to help you in that potential transformation. Good. A little bit lighter now. End-to-end process, what does it mean? Does it mean, I don't know whether there's a pointer. Yeah, there's a pointer. The previous conversation, the presentation, I heard Mr. Sanchez saying the person starts the process with transactioning the invoice and ends the process with doing the payment. What is for you a fully end-to-end process? Does it start when there's an idea? There's a pain point. There's an appetite for something. There's an issue. There's a question. Does it start there, the fully end-to-end process? Or is it only when you start measuring it, scaling it, put data next to the idea or the question or the issue, and do some analysis on this data? Or does the process start when you're considering different options in terms of meeting the needs and therefore need to make a decision? Or does the process start ultimately when the demand is very clear? This is what I want, this is what I not want. And everybody's at the starting line and the invoice comes in and you can start processing. So once it is processed and the invoice is paid, does it end with the delivery of the core process? Or does it end when you report out what you have achieved? When you communicate to the business what the process delivery and completion has done? Or does it end when you're meeting the demand? You asked me to perform this, I did it. Was that what you wanted? Yes? Good, let's shake hands. Or ultimately, does the process end with a satisfaction of the initial starting point, so that there is no more pain, no more issue, and that the questions are answered? So, I don't know. Each and everybody has to define for themselves where they think the process starts and where the process ends. But the next slide is about how do you extend fully end-to-end? And I wanted to provide you as well this understanding of what is end-to-end, where does it start, where does it end? And how do you bring in more business? Need to confirm here again, I don't have the magic formula. It's about your strategy, your business. Everybody is completely different over there. But how do you bring in more business? Well, first of all, you need to know the business that you're working in. The strategy, the priorities, the strategic imperatives. Secondly, you need to know yourself, your journey, your competencies, what you have in-house. Then you need to assess your foundations. What do you have as methodologies, your capabilities, where you are on the maturity stage, what is your sustainable improvement record, and so on. The key here is that you hold and apply a knowledge base on structural factors and process complexity to analyze and resolve visible symptoms. That's a heavy sentence. What does it mean? It means that whenever there is a pain point or an issue arriving, you recognize the symptom, you're able to analyze it, not just I see and this is the solution. No, I see, I understand what are the underlying structural factors. I get an assessment of what the process complexity is, what is underlying that, and then you can move into service offerings, which are about making the difference, aware of your consequences and risks, best choice, and sell it. Not by saying, look how good I am, but by saying, this is how I can make an impact. Last slide, how extend the fully end-to-end. You describe your current position. You get a good understanding of what end-to-end means across the business. You analyze your SIPOC, supplier input, process output, customer, and you're saying, this is my bit. And then you perform your business analysis. You look at the pre and the post. You're going to be looking there. You can use tools, Blueworks Live. There are definitely exhibitors who can provide you tools in business analysis, in process mapping, and so on. And as spoken before, the ownership. Who owns it, and so on. Assessing, you undertake it. You start pre, post, and you start looking, where can I make a difference? Where can I add value? I'm aware of the risk and consequences, and where does my idea to extend my services meet my operating model? So in summary, know who you are, where you are, maturity model, value proposition, know your business environment, clarify your part, define your value addition, which area you want to move, start with the close buys, see where things can be replicated, so not necessarily an extension of your current processes, but your competencies can be replicated to completely different process areas, and then step up, move it, and sell it. Thank you.